Hey, what's up, guys? It's Jonathan here with another exciting episode of Yellowhammer Rival Sports. With me always is Isaac. What's up, Isaac?
Nothing too much. Another week football. I'm ready for it.
Yep, it's been a pretty great weekend of college
I
football.
agree.
And so, you know what? Let's just jump right in. There was some big injuries this week. Some really big long term, and some thankfully not so bad. But you want to start off talking about Philippe Franks went down for Florida. That was very disappointing for the Gators out there.
Yeah, that's rough. It's a leader uh, of your team for a
Yeah.
couple seasons, and you know it's not something that you want to see happen. But at the same time, as much as I want to give all the respect that I can to Franks, I think he is a good leader. I think he is a good person, and I think he is talented. However, I don't think that this is the worst situation for Florida in the world.
Yeah. Some I know some are really upset about it, but we'll see moving forward. All right, moving on. Some injuries that maybe not as minor, thankfully, is Derek Brown for Auburn. He went down early in their game, and unfortunately, they decided to just leave him out the rest of the game. But it looks like he's just day to day and should be fine for the Texas A&M game, which is a big need for Auburn if they're going to stop coming on to that offense at Texas A&M.
That's rough.
Yep. I mean, Marlon Davidson came in, did his thing, of course, but it was against Kent State. So, not saying they're not a very talented young team, but let's be honest, they're not SEC offensive lines we have to deal with on a regular basis. So, thankfully, he's okay. But you want to tell us more about LeBron Ray going down for Alabama?
Yeah, there's nothing confirmed. Saban hasn't said anything of substantial concern. However, there's a lot of speculation that it's a season-ending injury.
Yeah.
So it looked from what I heard, they said it had something to do with his leg, and as soon as it happened, he was out, and so that's not something that you want to see happen, especially on a team that is fairly young. Alabama has lost so far on the defense Josh McMillan, and they've lost Dylan Moses. And losing LeBron Ray is not the best situation possible for Alabama right now. They do have a lot of talent. We will see who would fill that role when that time comes. But as far as losing a leader on the defense, that's definitely not something that you want to happen at all, especially for a defense that's rather young right now.
Yeah. I see. I know when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's not a good for. I felt bad for my buddy Isaac. 'Cause that's one of the few names I recognize from this year's team.
Yeah,
A lot of guys are young, upcoming.
Yeah.
You know, a little bit because of recruiting, but they haven't proven themselves on the field. He definitely has proven himself.
Yeah, and in the same game, Raekwon, you know, he almost won out too. So that's not. It's one of those times where you're winning. It might be time to just go ahead and sit everybody just in case.
Yep. So those are some of the big notable injuries. I will want to point out another unfortunate injury out of Auburn was Bailey Sharp. He's one of those guys as a 4-year guy on the offensive line. He made his first start, and he played a heck of a game. You know, Auburn had a great night running the ball. But unfortunately, Sunday he woke up with soreness in his knee, and he's out for the rest of the year. He's one of those guys that, you know, busts their butt, doing the right thing for the team, always a team guy. And you just hate to have situations like that where even when he would have had chances to play down when we're playing lesser opponents, he might have got in. It's hate to see a guy go out in a senior year like that. That's not so much.
Right.
So that's all the injuries that we wanted to point out tonight. Let's get just straight into that week 3 action now. All right, let's start off with that Clemson-Syracuse game. And that was a close game that a lot of people thought it'd be for a good bit of the game. What do you think, Isaac?
Yeah, that game ended up being 41-6. Was not definitely as exciting as they wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Although people do have a point when they say that might have been Clemson's toughest opponent. I will say that it was hard to watch Syracuse at some points in that game because in the past they've actually done a good job of playing up to Clemson,
Right.
and to see them just drop balls. The quarterback, who's been their quarterback for a while, just looked lost a lot of the game, and it was nothing like the Syracuse team that you saw the last time that Clemson came to the Dome.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence ended up finishing with 22 for 39 attempts, 395 yards on 3 touchdowns, but he had 2 interceptions. He accounted for another rushing touchdown, but it's hot and cold with Lawrence. I don't know what it is. He's throwing a lot of balls up in the air and hoping that their receivers come up with it, which is not the best thing to do in the world, but it's working. And so if he wants to keep doing it against these opponents, I'm assuming that those good receivers are going to keep coming down with it. Their defense is playing well. It's still, you can't tell me a lot about them. I don't know a lot about Clemson at this point. All I know is that they're going to continue to not really be tested. And so that's something that concerns me for the national scope, because I really want to know if Clemson is as good as people want them to be.
Right.
And for the number 1 team in the nation to not really have a challenge is kind of concerning.
Yeah, it is for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll look forward to seeing if there are some opportunities where some teams step up against them to give them some challenge. But yeah, so moving on, let's talk about the big exciting news of the day. Florida State is back at giving up late scores and losing games late. So at least this time it was a ranked opponent.
Yes.
What do you think of that game?
I think that somemew makes it better.
Maybe. I don't really know.
No. It's Virginia.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they've got a decent offense and move the ball, and you can definitely tell their senior leadership. That Virginia late in that game was the big difference in the game. Leadership and being composed. You know, I even saw where one booster's now had his child selling lemonade to help pay for Willie Taggart's buyout. That's probably a first for me.
That's
the lemonade
determination.
stand, yeah.
Yeah.
Gonna get it 1 nickel at a time. You go, kid.
I don't want to take anything from Virginia on this win, because I think Virginia is a pretty decent team. Do they have as much of a chance to win the ACC? Probably not. However, I do want to give them the props that they deserve for being where they are. I mean, they are ranked. They won ranked. I can't say as much for Maryland, who finally became ranked and then lost to Temple. So I do give them credit. They earned their ranking, and they proved why they were ranked.
Yeah. It's definitely still open for the rest of that conference after Clemson, which maybe they can figure things out and get better, and they can be one of the teams to challenge Clemson.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is more of a big deal. It's not as much as want to make fun of Florida State, but you got to consider like how good of a program they've been for so long, and just the last couple of years now, it's just the same thing. It's undisciplined.
Yeah.
It's just all kinds of mess. And it's not like they haven't had players on these teams that have been good and had success. Look at Brian Burns stepping in for the Panthers already, having a really good rookie year in the NFL. So they've had talent there. It's just they can't put it together to win ball games, and that's a problem.
Yeah,
And
that's rough.
Yeah,
and it's hard because there is talent there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Florida State that they have such a great pool to pick from.
You gushed over Akers last week.
You would have thought that Taggart, an exciting guy, seemed to be an offensive-minded coach, to come in there, take a defense that had plenty of good players on it, be able to just ride off of that defense and then make the offense even better. But in my opinion, he's honestly drove down the defense, and albeit Florida State is scoring, it's not enough, and they look tired near the end of the game. I think the biggest issue that I'm seeing is the Florida State defense, and that hasn't been their biggest problem in the past, so it's kind of concerning.
Yep, for sure. All right, let's move on to get into some matchups with SEC teams. Kansas State at Mississippi State. Yeah, for those that watched this game, this was one of the few games I got to watch live this week because I had to work. But it was just an ugly game, and I feel like both teams at times just tried to give this game away, and unfortunately Mississippi State gave it up at the end to end up losing. But it was a frustrating game to watch if you wanted to watch a good matchup between two pretty evenly ranked teams. And it was not ranked as in ranked, but just like in the ranks of how good they can be. It was just really disappointing. Mississippi State's quarterback ends up getting benched, and their backup came in, and he had some moments where he did some good things, but the defense and special teams at the end just coughed it all up.
It's one of those things that it's hard because I'm one of those people that you see Mississippi State that had Mullen for a couple of years, and they seem to kind of be clicking. And I give Mullen a lot of credit for being able to recruit talent at Mississippi State. Yeah. We've seen it translate to the NFL. There's been some talented Mississippi State players in the NFL, and I knew this was going to come. The moment that Mullen left, it was on the horizon. Mississippi State's going to have some kind of lag, and we're seeing it in full effect now. I do give Mississippi State a lot of credit for running the ball, though. Kylan Hill, still really, really like that guy. He's had over 100 rushing yards every single game. I don't see that slowing down anytime soon until they really get into the thick of their SEC schedule. But as far as Mississippi State as a whole, they've had good success on the defense, and they've had pretty decent success with the offense, and each one just kind of seems average this year.
Right, for sure. All right, yeah, so moving on, let's talk about y'all's game, Bama and South Carolina. Now, finally get an opponent worth talking about. Kidding.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really interesting game. South Carolina had their moments early in the game to make it a second half game and all. So I was really impressed with Helinski again. He made some good decisions, made some good throws. Did they score a touchdown right before half? Isaac, yes or no? Honest answer. Y'all won the game. It doesn't matter. Did he score?
Maybe. I don't. If we're talking about whether the officials would have actually said it was a touchdown, probably not. However, it didn't look like his knee hit the ground, but at the same time, it did. You didn't see any grass come up, so I don't know. It's one of those things to where if you ever look at a play in football and you're sitting there and you're like, I feel so bad for the referees in this moment. Yeah. And that was one of those plays, but it didn't even get reviewed. So
I think that was probably some of the people's biggest frustration with it was, thankfully I'm Auburn guy, so I love running backs. So I'm always looking at Dyer didn't go down, Ronnie Brown churning up, running over a Tennessee guy to get in the end zone. I'm always looking at those little close things on regular plays, and I for sure thought he scored during live play. Yeah. But even then, it was just confusing to me that it wasn't at least reviewed and looked at because of the moment and being a big game right before half. South Carolina gets the ball second half. You think if they go into the locker room only down a score, getting the ball back, how much more boost could that be for that team? Yeah. And then they end up having to try to rush a couple plays, which looked really bad, a couple of them, just because you could tell they were just trying to rush at that point. And they weren't in sync at that point. It was difficult to see them have a missed opportunity that at least they might could have had at least a better chance to get a score if they would have had the time to be reviewed.
Yeah, I agree. So, and I give a lot of credit to the South Carolina offense. I mean, Helinski, he showed a lot of composure the entire game. He took what Alabama was giving him, and he made mistakes. He looked a little overwhelmed at times. He's a freshman, and so I mean he went down to the wire. Really, he threw an interception at the end of the game, but that was just really out of desperation. He had a guy that was open, and I think he just went for the deep ball. But I do want to give a lot of credit to the Alabama offense because they looked like the Alabama offense that we've been watching for the last year or two. Tua actually had a career game. Didn't know that was possible. He went 28 for 36, 444 yards and 5 touchdowns. Najee Harris, he had 2 really good reception touchdowns. That one where he broke tackles, hurdled over guys. He looked like the Najee Harris that Alabama wants. And Devontae Smith, the guy who's usually considered almost even the fourth string to Jalen Waddle and Ruggs and Judy. I mean, Devontae Smith went out there. He had 8 receptions for 136 yards and 2 touchdowns. So for a guy who isn't always looked at as the best Alabama wide receiver, I think he showed why Alabama does give him a lot of respect, and Tua really likes him.
Yeah, I would say they definitely were on point, and they're making a lot of good play calls for their playmakers go out and make plays. Yeah, there's only one other guy that I'd want to mention would be Dowdle for South Carolina. He made some really good plays and kept that offense going. And at times, he was a little bit of a security blanket for Helinski.
Yeah.
So I thought he had a great game too. But yeah, all props to Bama's offense moving the ball. All right, so let's go on moving to Kentucky and Florida. Yeah, that was probably one of the better games of the weekend.
I agree.
It was definitely full of drama. You were talking about Franks going down. We talked about Sawyer Smith coming in last week, local talent. He had an interesting game, but for a guy that hadn't seen much opponents beforehand, I thought he had a really good game. He made some bad decisions, I think, but you could tell he was just trying to go out and make plays.
He wanted to.
Yeah, he was trying to will his team, and you want to see that, especially a guy that's going to be making his first start as a backup.
I agree.
Is that a first start for this team? I'll go back and say that. But yeah, what did you think of the game?
Yeah, on Sawyer Smith, he made some good plays and he made some bad plays, and I could attribute that to just trying to make plays, and I think that was what I was trying to get at when I was talking about him struggling with his first SEC matchup, because what you find out in the SEC is that these teams are really good, and you can't give them the opportunity to take advantage of your mistakes. And I think he's going to have to learn when to get rid of the ball. I think he's going to need to learn when not to throw the ball. And so that was things that, albeit he wasn't the perfect player at Troy, I think that's something that you didn't have to worry about as much when you're playing against those teams. And so now when you're playing well-coached defenses, you have to really think about the decisions that you make. And what I saw was exactly what I expected. However, he played very well in the moments that he had the opportunity to get scores, to get touchdowns. And he almost willed Kentucky to that game. And I disagree with Kentucky's decision to kick a field goal at the end of that game. I think that they had 3 timeouts and around 2 minutes left in the game, and they could have pushed that ball even more. I mean, I really do think if they would have given Sawyer the opportunity to go and score that touchdown like Auburn in the Oregon game, I mean, you see what can happen if you don't just assume that you're going to make a field goal.
Yeah, so I'll say one thing. I don't want this to come out wrong, because I don't think we're saying that he wasn't ready for an SEC defense. He was scared or something. He was ready for the moment.
Yeah.
I think he just tried to do too much and was trying to make the play, try to will himself. But I'll say there was one interception in particular. Well, I just think it came down to the fact that it's his first week at quarterback in Kentucky, and he was not on page with the receiver, because there was one that he just threw straight to the DB that he thought was going to be a jump ball, that he just threw up to the sideline jump ball, and the receiver, as soon as he let go, cut up to the midfield, middle of the field. It was just like, okay, obviously there was miscommunication, and the DB had an easy interception that he probably would have got some yards if he had just stepped out right after he caught it. But yeah, so that was interesting. But let's talk about UF on the other side. They were drowning at one point when Franks got hurt. I thought Kentucky was going to blow them out, and I was the one who thought Florida was going to win by at most 10. I thought it was going to be a close game more than you did last week. And I thought it was going to be the blowout the other way. Yeah. And then Franks goes down, and, that's one of those things where you hate to see a guy go down, but in a sense, Trask came in. He didn't do a lot. He didn't really. Wasn't super like the great. Came out and was a world beater.
Yeah.
Or anything at all.
He
He
did
just
enough, though.
managed the game.
Yeah.
He came in. He settled Florida down, but it just that change and seeing your leader go down, it sparked the Gators enough to like get the job done.
Yeah, I agree, and I think the biggest notable stat about Trask, he was 9 for 13, 126 yards. He had a rushing touchdown. But the thing that sticks out to me is the 9 for 13. 9 attempts, 13 or 9 completions, 13 attempts. That's fairly efficient in the end of the game, and he went out there and
Cold.
he didn't and he didn't try to it was this difference. See, you saw Sawyer Smith. Sawyer wanted to win that game. He wanted to will his team out there, and you make mistakes trying to do that. And Trask, he just went out there. He made some throws, put Florida in the position to get back in the game, and he ended up getting the game-winning touchdown. Even though they ended up scoring after that, he really was the one that put them ahead.
Right, he was. And I give credit to the UF offense coordinator there too. He didn't go out there. He said, "Okay, I'm going to simplify what we're trying to do here. I'm not going to try to make him do too much."
Yep.
Several of those passes were short little dump passes or quick outs to the tight ends. It was easy stuff that they do in fall camp warm up. So he didn't try to put the pressure on them too much. And they relied on their run game, and Pirine stepped up. And he hadn't done much that game up until that point, but Pirine's another guy you talk about them getting that big win.
I agree.
So, all right. So I think that's all the games for this week. It was very interesting week of action, but it was glad to see some real action, and not everyone's done with their cupcakes.
Yeah.
Starting to get in, feeling the SEC play, and those that had already had a big game had one last easy tune-up before their SEC play starts. My Tigers for one, but it's nice to know we're moving into that direction now. All these games are really going to start getting good and really going to matter.
I agree.
But this is a good point to look at the season already, how it's going. And you wanted to talk about the quarterbacks in play right now?
Yeah. I'm going to focus on 3 quarterbacks. Joe Burrow, Tua Tagovailoa, and Trevor Lawrence. So, Joe Burrow, I did not see this coming. He is 75 for 90, 1,122 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. He has 1 less attempt than Tua Tagovailoa. I would have never thought I lived in a world when LSU was throwing it as much as Alabama. Even when Alabama wasn't throwing it as much. And so Tua 70 for 91, 1,007 yards, 12 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. But the anomaly here is Trevor Lawrence. Now you can attribute it to a sophomore slump. Maybe they're playing down to their opponents. I can't describe it. But Lawrence is 59 for 97 attempts, 831 passing yards, 8 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. That is a significant drop down from 2 quarterbacks in the SEC. And Lawrence is behind quite a few names in football. He's sitting behind Hurts. He's even sitting behind Blackman at Florida State as far as statistics go. And that's rough for Clemson. And I get that they have an easy schedule right now. But Trevor Lawrence is not taking advantage of that. Yeah, they're scoring. Their defense is stepping up, but it's not promising to see a guy who looked like an amazing product against Alabama in the national championship game to play like this. And it's not like they're not giving him the opportunities. I mean, he has more passing attempts than Tua, but he's completed less passes. He has less yards, he has less touchdowns, and he has 5 interceptions. That is rough. I don't know if it's a sophomore slump. I don't know if it's the scheme, the decisions, but something is going on with Trevor Lawrence, and I thought first week it was just weird. Now we're into going in the 4th week of college football, and these statistics do not look like Heisman-worthy statistics as he was made out to be.
No, especially when you consider the defenses that he's playing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these are those times when he needs to be boosting them and making his stats as ridiculous as possible, because he will face some better defenses in the ACC at times. And he's one of those few that, because they don't play some of the quality opponents in the ACC as some of the others, like even Tua and Joe, that who will face each other, as well as having to play Auburn, Georgia's other good SEC defenses. They're going to have plenty of opportunities to win the vote of, who played better in these big time games, where Clemson's not going to have them until after the Heisman's already announced.
Yeah.
So if he's wanting to have a Heisman, that's going to be different. Another thing I've noticed, though, is I've been not impressed with their receivers this year as much. They've had he's had the benefit of having some really good receivers last year, especially. It's got to be hard to replace a guy like Hunter Renfrow, who's Mr. Consistency.
I agree.
And they've had some other big time receivers that can make plays that I just don't see them making plays for him either. So that would be one grain of salt I'd give in his favor.
Yeah.
Consider those, but y'all are the ones really to judge at the end of this.
Yeah.
We're just bringing up some points for you to consider.
I agree.
But do you have any other thing you wanted to bring up about that, or?
You mentioned the receivers, and if there was, I saw online a commentator was talking about that the lack of receiver variety can be hurting Lawrence, and I think that that's a real possibility. Higgins and Justin Ross, they are both similar type wide receivers, and stepping down under that, there's a little bit of a drop off, and it's not favorable that you have two big guys that rely on the deep pass and going up and catching a contested ball. It's different when you're talking about a team like Alabama. At Alabama, you have Judy that runs great routes, that goes deep, that is good at being elusive, getting defenders off of him. He's really good at yards after the catch. Then you have Ruggs, who's just a speedster. You can put him in a slant. Ruggs will take it another, 60, 50 yards if he has to. And then Devontae Smith is the Mr. Reliable. He has those long arms. He catches those balls even when Tua puts them a little bit too high. Najee Harris is showing skill in the receiving game, and then Waddle. I mean, you never know what you're going to get out of Waddle. He's just he is an all-around kind of receiver. So there's a lot of variety for Tua, as opposed to Clemson. Yeah. So it's interesting to see, and I think it's a very valid point that you brought up.
And bring up just for the LSU fans looking at LSU doesn't have any receivers either. I only made all three of them Offensive Player of the Week last week. And so it's like, it's definitely interesting to see moving forward if those guys can develop more skill set to help out Lawrence. And maybe it's using, you mentioned before, maybe using Etienne more in the pass game. Because that's going to take some wear and tear off him as well. He's running the ball all the time. But, so that was an interesting point. So now you brought up the starters, some of the big names. I wanted to mention, quarterback twos preseason. The last few weeks, I've noticed that, we've had, unfortunately, a lot of injuries this year. It's very interesting, though, especially the time of the whole transfer thing, people not getting jobs, and some staying and some going. Some are going and getting opportunities right away, like we talked about Sawyer Smith today. And then we've got, like, Trask, who sat around waiting for his opportunity at Florida, and it pops up. You even got guys like Joey Gatewood, who lost a job to a true freshman, who's a redshirt freshman at Auburn. He has a big role in the offense still at Auburn. It's just very interesting how, like, all these teams are coming in, even Mississippi State today, or Saturday. I've noticed that these guys are coming in, and for whatever reason, they're, in a good way, they're being a positive to their offenses. So you talked about, like, going negative for Sawyer Smith and Trask coming in. Was the fact that Trask came in later in the game. Sawyer Smith had to start because he boosted Florida to win that game, where Sawyer Smith came in and gave them a boost early in the game. And then you look at Mississippi State, they end up, their defense and special teams cost them, but the backup quarterback, who's another true freshman, by the way, he came in and set a tone, and he was running the ball as well. He was a good compliment to Hill at times during that game. So it's very interesting to me that people don't look out these guys that are getting opportunities that when a guy goes down, how good some of these quarterbacks are nowadays. Coming in, they're well prepared for the starting job. And, Trask mentioned it in the post game. How Mullen takes it is we have 3 starters in that room. I was because we've also got Emory Jones is our other quarterback that he's got talent too. We might see him at some point. If Trask isn't the guy for Florida long term, we'll probably see him get a chance at this moving forward. Yeah, Trask got the win, so he'll probably get the start this week, but we'll see. But I just thought that was interesting and something to keep an eye out on these guys coming in and playing really well early on in their careers and new situations with new teams.
I totally agree.
Yep. So now we're going to move on to our favorite segment of the show. little bit of lightness before we get into week 4 action. How about our homer corner? Isaac, let you start.
Yeah. Alabama, definitely the offense is kicking it. We have great, as I said earlier, receiver variety. Tua is playing well. Najee's finally coming around. Brian Robinson is making a good change of pace back to him. What I want to talk about are 2 issues and almost non-issues with Alabama. Even though I know this is kind of a homer minute, I'm just going to take this opportunity to kind of criticize a little bit. Hey, it happens. The Alabama defense is young. They got to step up. There's guys that they're being put into roles that they didn't really expect to get when they walked into Tuscaloosa, and now they're starting for the Alabama Crimson Tide. And you can see guys wanting to make plays. They want to have those opportunities. And so now we have to ask them to just calm down. You're playing for Alabama, but you have great talent around you. You aren't alone out there. You just follow your assignments. Follow what Saban tells you to do. And I can assure you that if you just trust the process, it'll all come around. And the last thing that I want to talk about for Alabama is the kicking. Look, that's been a problem that has plagued us so many times. And it looks like it's coming around. It looks like it's getting a little bit better. But at the same time, Reichert is a freshman. And so he's going to miss them. He's not going to make every single one. But he is looking promising. And he has a oomph to his kick, if you know what I'm saying. It's kind of hard whenever you watch a guy go out there and kick a PAT and it just kind of like knocks off his foot and kind of flips into through the field goal. And so it's nice to see him just go out there and kick the heck out of that ball. He's kicking well on kickoffs. He's a good punter. So he has a lot of promise, but man, it just hurts to watch him still miss those field goals because I want us to be able to be so good at that so bad. But it'll all come together. We are young and we are still talented. So guys, they have to buckle down. They got to buckle their chin straps and they got to do their assignments and they got to trust the process.
Yeah, there's still not a championship in Philly, so no. But you talk about kickers though. Me and Isaac have been friends and known each other a long time. Every time I think of Isaac talking about kickers, I can't help from that night at Beat-Ups when you told me the Carlson recruiting story. That is just immediately, yeah, good times.
One of the few things, brothers at Auburn too.
Yeah,
it's a curse that keeps on cursing.
Yeah, well, anyways, so moving on to Auburn. Yeah, we had another easy game to work some things out, which I was really happy for. I thought even with Prince getting the night off because he was a little banged up, just trying to let him rest at left tackle. The offensive line came out and they did their job finally. This is the first week this year that they, from beginning to end, owned that line. I was really happy to see that was something really needed. And because of that, we had 3 rushers for over 100 yards. Mm-hmm. The last time that happened was 1983. So the 3 guys that did it last time, just for some of y'all that may not know Auburn history that well, Tommy Agee, fullback.
Oh.
Lionel James, halfback. And then a freshman, Bo Jackson.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the last time that happened in Auburn. And we've had some great running backs and even running back tandems The Brown and Cadillac, early 2000s. Even Jason Campbell when he'd run some with them. At one point we had Brandon Jacobs in that mix too.
Yeah.
And we've had some really great running backs that just kind of find it like interesting that that's something that hadn't had in so long. That was something good to see. The only negative that really helped with the game was there was a point where you can tell because we have a little bit of lack of depth in some areas in the secondary. And I'm not saying depth as far as like we don't have guys that are good that can play them. Is the coaches were trying to use opportunity to try to teach guys some new positions, get them some game time. And because of that, we lost Smoke Monday for the first half against Texas A&M. It was one of those like quick bang bang plays that we got a targeting foul, and it's just like one of those things where like we're beating Kent State bad enough.
Yeah.
There's a time and place for everything. That was just the worst possible time. Like that's one thing I want. It'll be interesting to see the first half if Texas A&M is able to move the ball early and we have a slow start on offense.
Yeah.
That might be a point to look at is how their receivers are doing against our secondary. Missing a guy like Smoke, who he's not one of our top cover guys, but he's one of those guys that he's going to lick somebody and make him think twice next time he catches. So losing a guy like him in a big conference matchup is big. And that's one of the reasons why he probably got the targeting too. 'Cause he likes to lay the hit sometimes.
He likes to lay them. Yeah. He run that risk as a defensive back now.
So that's one thing I would look forward to. Other than that, I'm really happy with where Auburn is, and they're sitting in a good spot. And on top of that, we're not favored in this game, which is always good when you're a young team and you don't want to be having the world on your side, especially right now. That can come after we beat Alabama. We can get some of the big head after that, but I'm like, as long as the season's going on, I'm just like where it's still progressing, and our defense is still. Some of the guys are getting some good time playing. I'm really excited to see where they're going. One newcomer that came along that I did like was I liked J.J. Wilson finally got some time in at the H-back slot, which I really like him. Those that don't know, he's a transfer for Arizona State. That's a position we need filled desperately for more passing situations. And he had a couple nice plays and catches, so I like to see where that's going. So that's my homer minute for now. Just real positive, happy, just let the season get going and ready for conference play. And get the Mags. All right. So that was our homer minute, War Eagle. And now we're going to move into our week 4 action where we got some interesting games this week. With it being conferences or getting into conference play, we're going to talk about a few conference and non-conference games that are big matchups to look at because we at least want to address them. So at least we said, hey, this is what's going to happen. So you hear it here first. All right. So let's start off with LSU Vandy. You think Vandy hits the spread? They're negative 23.
It's the spread. I like that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's getting late.
Well, no, I mean I don't think they're going to win. So I think it's a good discussion to have. Do we think that they make the spread? Yeah.
Do they cover the spread? I don't think so.
Maybe.
You know what?
It depends. It depends if
it is
the
at
offense.
Vandy.
It depends if the Jonathan, you know that doesn't matter. There's probably going to be more LSU fans there.
I'm trying to help them out. I'm trying to help them out. I'm sorry.
If the Vandy defense steps up a little bit, or not the defense, sorry, the Vandy offense, because the LSU defense, I'm totally not trying to throw disrespect their way, but they are kind of young, like Alabama. So if their offense can give LSU a little bit of a run for their money, I think that they could cover the spread.
Okay, that's good. One thing I do like about Vandy is they're always bringing that GPA up for the conference.
Is that right?
We need that.
Yes.
Some of those big schools, we need that little bit of boost to help the conference overall. All right, so moving on, we got an interesting one. First game without Franks. The Gators host Tennessee Vols. Do you want to make an apology to Tennessee? Because BYU beat USC last week.
No.
They beat away. Okay. I mean, I'd at least ask.
Look,
no.
I would, but they also lost to Georgia State, so they're just.
I was giving you the opportunity.
Yeah.
That's fine. Okay.
I will say that Tennessee you aren't going to win this game. Yeah, it's not going to happen. No, I would love to say like Tennessee. Hey, I really think you could win this game. No, I think Florida goes out there. Bold prediction. I think Trask accounts for 3 touchdowns at least.
Okay, and they're favored. Florida's favored by 14, so
yeah,
that'd probably cover it. Because I don't see Tennessee scoring.
I don't think that Tennessee covers that.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I mean they've got a pretty good field goal kicker, so I mean they might cover because of that. No.
Maybe.
All right, so let's stick in the state of Florida.
Okay.
Florida State is actually favored in a game this week.
I think they're at home. No.
They're at home.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah,
That's the
and they're
only
playing Louisville. So I'm like, I mean,
Okay.
we're talking about the crap bowl for
Yeah.
the SEC. Is this the crap bowl for the ACC?
Well, Louisville gave Notre Dame a little bit of a run for their money in week 1.
Yeah.
And so I think Louisville does have some talent. Florida State also has some talent. So I think in the end, this is going to end up being a good game that is not fought between 2 very good teams. If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, yeah. Last time we implied that Arkansas ripped Colorado State to shreds.
Yeah, they did.
Or was
I
it
agree.
Colorado?
I was wrong.
Yeah.
I really thought Colorado State had an opportunity.
Yeah.
But Starkel, he played pretty well.
Yeah, he did. Very much so. All right, so now let's go on to 2 teams coming off emotional, difficult losses this week.
Mhm.
Kentucky's going to start Vegas. That's an
Vegas,
interesting
baby.
matchup. Yeah, the Bulldogs are favored by 7. I'm going to take Kentucky outright in this one. I think they'll beat Mississippi State. I like Sawyer Smith. He got a good taste of, and he got it in a safe space being at home. I think Florida's defense is better than Mississippi State's. The being in Stark Vegas will be more of a challenge, but I like Sawyer Smith here making enough plays, and they're going to win outright, I think.
I am going to disagree just because you mentioned that it was home. Those Cowbells, I've been in that
So is
stadium.
K-State.
It is the what?
So is K-State.
Yeah, but man, it's his first. It's his first. I know we said like first SEC game, but now it's his first SEC road game,
Yeah.
and that can be a whole lot more daunting than your first home game. And so I think Mississippi State finds a way to pull it off with the Cowbells at their side.
Okay. All right, fair enough. So we agree to disagree here.
Yes.
But it should be a really good game.
It should
I look
be.
forward to watching this
Yeah.
game. I think for both teams, both looking for an identity at critical points in the year, I think it'll be a very good game and an opportunity for both teams here.
If Mississippi State is going to win this game, they're going to have to need their quarterback to return to the earth first, because I think he's still in the air.
Well, I mean, if they depends on who starts. If Steven starts, he needs to make better choices passing.
Yeah.
But if it's the true freshman that came in backup, I can't think of his name at the moment, but if they run more read option, there'll be a little more balance on offense.
Yeah.
I think
He's definitely
a decent runner.
He's a high flying quarterback.
Yeah. Anyways, all right, moving on. We've got South Carolina traveling to Mizzou. Mizzou's favored by 9.5 on this one. That's interesting. And I don't know what to make of Missouri yet this year. I think they're still probably the biggest unknown in conference.
You have Kelly Bryant.
Yeah.
He's at least a veteran if you're talking about quarterbacks in the NCAA. He has the experience. He's played good teams. So we will see how he fares against one of, I think, his first SEC matchups since Alabama in the Sugar Bowl. I could be wrong. No, he played Texas A&M the next year. So he's going to have, I think, a pretty decent game. But I really like South Carolina and Helinski. I do think that it hurts them a little bit that they're going on the road. So I think Missouri pulls this one off.
Yeah, I said yeah. And somewhere in there had 2 games against Auburn that Auburn should have won. 1 year playing triple quarterback carousel, and another one at home, and just yeah.
Yeah.
That game the offense couldn't score anything from Auburn, and they won like 10-3. That was the game where that hurricane was coming and all that. And yeah, because I was going to go to that game and then didn't because of that.
That would be enough reason to stay.
Yeah. All right, so moving on. We're going to get into some non-conference games right here. We got Wisconsin traveling to the Big House, taking on Michigan. They're favored by 3. I'm going to go with Wisconsin here. And this is my bold prediction.
Yeah.
I think Taylor runs for 200-plus yards in this game.
I will agree
trounce.
with you. I completely agree. I think Wisconsin is a better team than Michigan. However, I think Wisconsin is also just undisciplined enough to keep Michigan in this game. So we will see who comes up with the W at the end. I think both teams have their problems. So we will find out which ones are more glaring. I think it's a good matchup.
I don't think it's a good matchup only because I definitely agree with you on some of that. And the Wisconsin defense might keep Michigan in this game longer than it should. But I don't see Michigan stopping Jonathan Taylor running. They had trouble against a good Army team that ran all over them too. And Wisconsin's got a better front line than Army does. No offense to Army. I thought last year in early predictions, I was thinking they could go undefeated this year because Army's got a good team and they don't play anybody but Michigan, and they should have beat Michigan this year. So I'm gonna go with Wisconsin, and they're gonna win by more than 3, I think. And Jonathan Taylor, 200+. Mark that down.
I agree.
Yeah.
Mark it down.
All right, now another one. This one's interesting too. I think we agree on this one as well.
Yeah.
Texas and Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's favored by 5 here, which I feel like a lot of viewers, because they don't watch a lot outside of the SEC, probably thinking, wow, Texas was such a big name 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
How could they not be favored against Oklahoma State? Well, I'll tell you why. Oklahoma State is legit. Their offense is insane to watch.
Very good.
They're going.
Tyler Wallace.
I think they're being very generous with
Chuba Hubbard.
only being favored by 5.
Yeah, there are some big names on that Oklahoma State offense, and this new quarterback that they've got, he's not the best guy in the nation. But I think against a Texas defense, he can get it done.
DBU down. Yeah, this is not going to be pretty for Texas fans. I think they probably are thinking, oh, we're going to rally around there.
But in the end, I do think it's a shootout. I think it's going to be a close game, but I do think that Oklahoma State can pull this off.
I think they're going to win by at least 14.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Hey, that's
that's my other prediction.
Okay.
But yeah, I think at the end of the season, the Big 12 is going to be thanking everyone in the state of Oklahoma for saving the Big 12. Because Oklahoma State and Oklahoma is going to save this conference, I think, from being completely irrelevant by end of the year.
No, I don't disagree.
All right, moving on. Now we're going to a interesting game. We've got Notre Dame traveling to Georgia. You know, this has been an interesting matchup last year and all. It was a really good game. Notre Dame's favored by Georgia's favored by 13.5.
Yeah.
So I
think Georgia covers.
Yeah.
I know it was a close game last year. Yeah. I think Georgia only won by 1 point.
Yeah.
But
they won the fan base. Dude,
yeah.
I think that was the second I've ever been proud. The second and most I've ever been proud of Georgia as a member of the SEC.
Yeah.
That was awesome seeing them go up there and own South Bend.
They took down Notre Dame.
But I just want to note it in the show. The most proud I've ever been of Georgia, coming from an Auburn fan who hates Georgia.
Yeah.
This Saturday, what they did at Arkansas State, it's coach and all. That we talked about. We were running about Franks and all them being how not to do. Yeah, they trampled they destroyed a bad team, but there's bigger things in football. I think we both agree on that.
Yeah.
That was
great.
Yeah, peak out. For
really
those
great.
that don't know, Coach Anderson for Arkansas State, his wife before the season passed from breast cancer, and Georgia decided for the game was going to be like their game. They're going to support breast cancer and all, and they actually pinked out their stadium for the opposing team's coach. You know, this was one of the ones you could tell that like they're talking to Coach Anderson. We thought about it even before the game. He just during the week before he even saw it, he was like he was having trouble with emotions to even come up with it. So I want whoever had that idea at Georgia, you get all the props in the world to me. And I think I
It was great.
It was
give
awesome.
I give them so much credit for
Yeah.
doing that, and it's astounding that we look at college football as sometimes this thing that people put above all else, but at the end, it can be such a great tool for awareness and to do and show good in the
Yeah.
world. I know people have a lot of ideas about football now, especially with the political climate that's entered into the NFL.
Yeah.
But in the end, college football can be so healing. It can be an opportunity for you to look at something outside of a lot of problems in this world. And I love college football because of that. And this was just another reason why I love college football so much.
Yeah, there's a reason why we're, as much as we love NFL too, there's a reason we're doing a college football show and not because you get some of these awesome stories that are great like this. And yeah, you can talk all day about even the politics and coming in the NCAA, but on Saturday in Athens, Georgia, everything right about college football was shown.
Yeah.
So I definitely
agree.
wanted that to be mentioned on our show because if we overlook that, then we're not really doing this a good job.
No, I agree.
So now move on back to the football side of things.
Yes.
Yeah, Georgia. I like Georgia winning here.
I do too. And Notre Dame has given up over 200 yards rushing in each of the last games that they've played. They did have a bye week, I think, last week. And so they have one less game than Georgia. So it's a little less of a pool to look at. But in both of those games, they've given up well over 200 yards. And for a team that prides itself on running the ball with really great talent doing it, and an amazing offensive line, and a quarterback who can beat you with the play action, I think that Notre Dame gets shown up a little bit. And I'm really happy to see it because I'm hoping that they get left out of the playoffs.
Yeah, so do you think it's quite as bad as some of the other times Notre Dame has faced SEC opponents in the postseasons? Think it's that bad? Because thinking of like the LSU blowout early 2000s, even when Bama blew them out in that game, that Notre Dame shouldn't have been in the national title game. That's another story.
It's one of those situations where it's early in the season. I don't think that Georgia has had the significant test. And so they've played Vanderbilt, they've played two low-end teams, and so now Georgia's really having their first real game. And I've seen good things out of Georgia. I've seen some questionable things out of Georgia. They're running the ball well. Fromm is a decent passer. Their defense is playing up to par, but again, they just haven't been tested. So although I do think that they put a whooping on Notre Dame, I wouldn't see this as a blowout. I think Georgia may cover the spread, although I think there's a good chance Notre Dame keeps it within a touchdown or 10 points.
Okay, fair enough. I think it'll at least be 2 scores though, for sure.
I mean, and that's quite possible. If the Georgia defense steps up and their offense runs the ball like they have, I don't see Notre Dame being able to handle that. Ian Book is going to really need to play out of his mind if Notre Dame is going to take this one.
Yeah, I don't
see that happening.
No, I don't either. Ian Book is what good. When he's good is when he's managing the game and he can make a couple big plays.
Yeah.
I
agree.
That's his. I don't see if you say, hey, I need you to have the game of your life. I don't see Ian Book being a guy that's going to go out and get it.
No.
So
And
he
had that, he had that opportunity against Clemson and did not do it. So we'll see.
Yeah. But that Clemson defense was a different animal than this year's.
That's true.
Defense. But yeah. All right, so the game of the week in the SEC
Mhm.
happens to be my Tigers going
Yes.
to Texas A&M.
Mm.
This one's gonna be an interesting game for sure. Gonna be the first conference game for Auburn. Not the first game in Texas for Auburn, which is a good plus to
Yeah.
have. It'll be the first true road game, with Oregon being a neutral site. Texas A&M's favored by 4. What are your thoughts on this matchup? Before we get into mine.
I don't want to take anything away from either team. So just know I'm saying both of these teams are pretty good. I think you have two teams that are very similar. I think this is the first big test for Bo Nix. I do think that Oregon was a good team. However, I think that this will be his first taste of SEC action, and it's at College Station. And those are two big first times in a quarterback's career as a true freshman. And so while I do think that Oregon was a good test for him, I mean, it was his first start. He went out there. I think this is Bo Nix's opportunity to say, hey, I'm more than just a true freshman. I'm more than just a guy who stuck it out in the Oregon game and threw a touchdown at the end of the game. Bo Nix really has an opportunity to walk into College Station and say, hey, I'm going to take this Auburn team on my back and we're going to go places. And if Auburn can beat Texas A&M, especially if they can really handle Texas A&M, I'm looking at them as a threat for possibly even the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree, of course.
Yeah.
But yes, I think the two big keys I think of this game is going to be if Auburn can come out and do. I know it was against an inferior opponent, but if the line steps up again and controls the line and lets the run game develop, Auburn's at their best when the quarterback doesn't have to make a ton of throws.
Yeah.
When we're running the ball effectively, get Booby going, get Kmart free up, especially late in the first half and mid-second, where that speed element running inside can benefit. If Auburn can control the line of scrimmage, especially on the offensive side of the ball, wear A&M's defense down, I really think it's their game to lose.
Yeah.
Because I'm not completely sold on Kellen Mond as a every down great quarterback. He flashes that potential. The talent's there. He flashes potential there, but can he handle? It's for me. It's difficult having him to handle the SEC speed that when you got a lineman that's as fast as you are.
Yeah,
it's kind of hard to do
rough.
anything. And I just the guy I think who's going to be big for Auburn in this game. If he can create a havoc, which games he does is usually good for Auburn, is Big Cat. If Big Cat goes in and owns the edge and just his speed getting around the edge and having Mond to jump up, Marlon Davidson, Derek Brown, the other guys are going to clean it up.
Yeah.
And then you got Jeremiah Ditson, who usually is the one guy that's all over the place. If he plays like he did the last time we were in Texas, he was the MVP of the Auburn-Oregon game, I thought.
Yeah.
He was just all over the field, like, man, possessed. But that's the big challenge, I think, will be the offensive lines controlling and Mond having a decent game or not. I think Texas A&M defense will be there for starting the game. It's just if Auburn's defense is able to wear them down, there's going to be problems for them.
Yeah, I agree. And I think this is as far as the SEC West race for the championship, I think this is an Alabama-LSU kind of game. I think both of these teams have the opportunity to really get the leg up for that opportunity to upset Alabama when it matters. And so that winning this game is going to mean a lot as far as like when especially the Iron Bowl runs around. When it comes to that, if it's going to be an SEC West like championship game, I think Auburn needs to win this game, and so it's going to be for either team. They need to win this game to really cement themselves in the SEC title race.
Yeah, I really feel like that's too because this is one of those years where the West is just there's definitely a line there. It's 4 this year for sure.
Yeah.
that Mississippi State and Ole Miss, yeah, you lose this game, Auburn has Mississippi State the next week. If they lose this game, that one loss, it's so easy in college game for one loss to turn into two.
Yeah.
And your season's derailed right there, especially just entering conference play. So it's a lot. It's a very big game for both teams, of course.
I agree.
And you've got LSU and Bama still waiting for the winner to have to beat. So, and it'll be interesting to see how that turns out and
Yep.
plays.
Yep.
This might be the first year though that I would not be shocked if the winner of the West has a loss,
Hmm.
and it still be a really good team,
Yeah.
and have every aspiration and
I
should be
agree.
a national
We'll see.
contender. But
It's gonna be a tough race if somebody takes down Alabama for a loss. I think you'll see these other three teams, and LSU, Auburn, and A&M. I think each of those teams, not saying that they will have, I mean, they're all going to have to play each other. So unless Auburn runs the table and Alabama runs the table, you're looking at a scenario where there are three, or actually four, one-loss teams. And so, I mean, it's very possible that turns into a really murky situation.
Yeah. And the playoff committee would have a tough decision if they're sitting there.
Mm.
Only one of these teams get to play in Atlanta.
Yeah.
There's no reason the way they've done years past where 2, maybe even 3 teams deserve to be getting another game.
We'll see.
But yeah. Anyway, that's for another discussion on another video.
Yeah.
Because this is getting a long video.
Yep.
But
That's true.
hey, we love college football. We're gonna talk about it.
Yep.
But all right, guys. Anything else you want to talk about tonight?
I think we're good
Yep,
until
we're
next
good.
time.
Yep. All right, guys. This is the Yellowhammer Rival Sports. I'm Jonathan. This is Isaac. Catch y'all later. War Eagle.
Roll Tide.